We are back on Freshwaves. We've got Victoria Grant in the station with us, and we've got her only for a few more minutes, so we're going to pick your brain for all kinds of great things really fast. So you're bringing in some new people to be holding discussions at the library. Would it be prudent for us to allow the listeners, if they have an idea, to contact us here at Freshwaves, and we'll contact you, and they can tell us who they would like to hear and what they would like to hear in order to broaden their horizons towards the reconciliation and First Nations of this country?
Better yet, to call Shauna at the library.
Okay, call Shauna at the library.
Call Shauna at the library. She's very engaged in this stuff.
Yeah, and let them get into as well. I missed the Monday thing. Someone told me about it in town. So I need to get myself on a mailing list so that I find out what's going on. And anyone here in town, you can go to the library's website, but actually get on their mailing list so that they actually send you an email to remind you of these things that are coming up, because they are really, really important to attend.
Yeah,
now,
I agree.
I'm on part of this mailing an email list. I get an email list of all the First Nations activities going on in the Toronto area, which is also kind of interesting. There's a bazaar this weekend downtown, and there's going to be First Nations, like real crafts, not made overseas somewhere, replicas, real handcrafts, really interesting things. And I'm keen to go. Not that I'm going to buy a ton of things because my Christmas shopping is done. Yay, yay. But to see the artwork. Yeah. Like, I love going and looking at Diane Brown Green's stuff. Have you, you know her, and her artwork here in Stouffville is just out of this world. And when she shows you the turtle and then you see all of the things on the turtle's back, it's fun. It's great education.
Yeah, it is.
And we learn a lot through the arts, don't we?
We do. I have a cousin down there who's Red Sky Performances, and her interpretation is through dance.
Oh, nice.
And it's pretty incredible. She's in Europe. She'll be going to Europe after Christmas for 5 weeks with a show she just did.
Wow.
So, there's lots of stuff going on. There
is.
Yeah.
It's good to see.
Yeah.
It's good to see the TV shows that have been doing, the documentary that was done going across Canada to all the different First Nations with those 6 or 7 white people in a bus.
Yeah.
And they got to go in all these places.
Yeah.
The powwow was spectacular, by the way. The powwow out west that they went to.
Yeah.
Wow. That was something. I think I played it twice when I was watching it so I could see it, because it was just so neat. The dancing was beautiful. The costumes were spectacular. It was wonderful.
So I'm going to say something. You never call it costumes.
Oh, not costumes, right. It's traditional dress.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Or regalia.
Regalia. That's a nice word.
Like, if you think about the Queen, she wears regalia.
Yeah, she certainly does, even though it's designer clothing. It's definitely done for a purpose.
No, but her regalia would be the crown.
Yes, and the cape when she wears it.
And jewels and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's people are really offended when it's called a costume,
right?
But
and Halloween too, you're not supposed to wear a costume. Although that one gets,
I think. I guess Halloween. I don't know what to think about that. In some ways, I sometimes think if a little kid is doing some of these things, what is he not learning something? It's mindset, right?
Right.
What are you doing?
How are you doing it?
And it raises that whole question of cultural appropriation. What is cultural appropriation?
Yeah, it's a very interesting discussion, isn't it?
It is. I guess when I think back of the parkas I made, was that cultural appropriation? I made what they call kulatuks from the north for a while, and Linda Lundstrom did La Parka, which was based on those parkas.
Yes, La Park. I love those ones. They're great parkas.
When you think about it, is it cultural appropriation? It's like the kayak, right? And it was really interesting because when we were on the ship, one of the things on the ship was they taught the Inuit people the Inuit singers, throat singers, taught us how to throat sing.
Yes.
And the kids were running around throat singing. And there was a discussion that was had afterwards because somebody had raised a question is, do we want these kids throat singing when they're not in the workshop? And, one of the Inuit women said, we want to hear throat singing across Canada and across the world.
Mm-hmm.
But what we want, it always to be acknowledged that it came from us. And I thought, what a wonderful attitude, what a wonderful way to describe.
Mm-hmm. Because there was a time when the throat singing was banned. You weren't allowed to throat sing.
Exactly. It's the same as it was the same as the Sundance or the, I'm trying to remember the ceremony out west that, in BC out west mostly, that was banned too. They literally took all of their ceremonial items. The government literally took those ceremonial items from people to try and stop. I mean, when you think about it, if there was a time when if you saw 4 indigenous people standing together, you weren't allowed to do that because they were worried that you were
forming a group and a conspiracy.
Yeah.
It's kind of silly, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very silly to think about it.
But it's because we're so intertwined, and it doesn't mean we've lost our culture, but it's what is cultural appropriation, and how do we, again, I go back to the medicine wheel and walking to the medicine wheel and the influences that come into your life. Mm-hmm. That changes you.
It does.
It changes just about everything in you. So it's a remarkable, I really struggle with that one.
It's an interesting conundrum.
There can be outright cultural appropriation and misrepresentation.
Right.
There can be people, we do have people, we can describe as wannabes.
Yes.
They take on the role of an indigenous person somewhere, and they introduce themselves as somebody, as some...
Yeah, they give themselves an indigenous sounding name, something like, falling tree, and then they present themselves as someone who they're really not.
And that, I've actually known people like that, but it's, again, even then I think, well, why was their life so bad that they needed to do that?
Yes, they needed to pretend to be somebody else.
It's one of those things that it's a very tough, it's a very challenging question. What is cultural appropriation?
It is, and it's something, maybe that's one of a good topic for the library discussion.
Yeah.
Because I think, out of respect and out of not wanting to say the wrong things, people sometimes don't say anything at all.
Yeah.
And that's not good either. I think we need to create safe places where people can come together and ask the question.
Yeah.
Some of my friends thought I was out of my mind to ask you what you should be called or what you would like to be called personally. And I said, there's no difference than me saying, how should I call you? What is your name?
Yeah.
What name would you like me to use? Some people want to be called Beverly, not Bev.
Yeah.
Some people want to be called Running Dog, and that's their prerogative. And it's just, as long as it's done respectfully and we acknowledge people and we learn.
Exactly.
That's what the learning is all about.
And respect. And I guess one of the things I've always said is, I was in the Staples here in Stouffville not too long ago, and I used my status card. I actually see my status card. It's a bit of an education tool.
It actually is.
So I handed my status card to this young girl standing at the counter, and she said, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure, you can ask me a question." And she said, "So I never know what to call you. I never know how to refer to you, and you know, she said, she said, I don't know, like, is First Nations the right term? Mm-hmm. And I looked at her and I said, I'm going to take a moment. And we actually moved away, and one of the other guys came and started to serve customers because we were talking. And I said, I'm going to take you on an interesting battle, because I said, you're not the only one who doesn't know what to call me. I said, I'm handing you a card, and this is card issued by the Government of Canada. And it is a certificate of Indian status. So when I hand you that card, I am saying to you, I am an Indian.
Yeah.
And I said, but that's, so for me, I said, if you ask me what you wanted, how you want me to refer to me, I would tell you that in this area you can talk about the Anishinaabe people. And she said, it's complicated, isn't it? And I said, it's very complicated. But it was a learning moment. It was a learning moment
for her, exactly.
And you know, when they talk about true ignorance is not a bad thing if you ask questions, right? There's being, you know, when somebody asks a question because they're ignorant of what they're saying, that's not a bad thing. It's just how you deal with it. And it's how you receive it.
Right, and how respectful they are being.
Yeah.
I think pure innocence of, help me, because I would like to be respectful, but I don't know how.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Because it comes from a place of respect and genuine caring. If she didn't care, she wouldn't have asked.
Yeah, exactly.
She would have just handed you your Indian card back and kind of went, oh, she's an Indian.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and it's
so that's a nice place to be, and it actually kind of warms my heart to think that the kids are asking, that the young people are asking, because they want to know, because they want to be respectful.
Yeah, I thought it was a really kind of nice moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would like it personally to see a lot more education happening in high schools by First Nations people who go in and do a talk, and that the stuff that's going on at the library could go on at the high schools as well. You know?
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be First Nations people.
No.
When we start learning our history,
as
long as the education is right.
As long as the education is correct. I was actually working at the museum doing a First Nations program with them with some grade 3 students, and they had just finished their unit from the Board of Education. And it was interesting, the different information that they had that I had. And they were saying, really? Well, we just learned about that, and that's not how we learned it. And I said, well, proof in the pudding that we all still need to be a lot more educated than we are, and that there's a lot more talking to be done.
Well, and we're never, you know, one of the things I would say is you're never going to get the same stories.
Right.
I mean, really, some of this stuff is about storytelling, right?
Yes. And
it's how you tell the story. And when you deliver that story, it's how it's received.
Right.
It's not, it's, I mean, fact. One of the true facts is there were a lot of people who came to Canada.
Right.
You know, fact. Sir John A. Macdonald was the Prime Minister when the Indian Act was formed.
Yes.
You know, so we can talk about fact, but when you present those facts, you're also presenting those facts as part of a story.
Yeah.
So and they're hearing that story.
That's true.
So it's a you know, it's not easy.
No, it's not easy, and it's not going to happen overnight.
No.
I look at this and I think there is no way that this tangled web is going to untangle itself in the next 2 years or 5 years. I mean, we're looking years and years and years of understanding and learning and growing to do as a people of all people.
Well,
in order to learn.
Exactly, as Senator Sinclair said, you know, was 150 years to get here.
Yeah. It's probably going to be more.
What we have to do is lay a solid foundation.
Yes.
And make that change. Change will only happen. And it's never going to be perfect.
No, but
Because-
what in life is?
Exactly.
There's nothing that's perfect.
Exactly.
And that's probably part of the fun of it.
We just want the majority of the people in in Canada to, and we want this. We want to change some of the systemic issues.
Right.
That's what we want to change.
That's for sure. Well, on that note, maybe one of the things we should do is invite Jane Philpott to come on with us one time, and
Yeah.
we'll have a nice talk in the spring. That would be fun.
Yeah, sure would.
She's doing a lot of great things.
She is doing a lot of great things.
She's a wonderful person. I would
Yeah.
love to have her on the show to chat a bit about what's going on from a federal point of view. It would be
Yeah.
really interesting to have her on the show. Anyway, Victoria, I know you have to run because you're off to strange and crazy and wonderful places. Where are you going tomorrow?
I'm going to Whitehorse tomorrow.
Whitehorse. I've never been there. Is it fun? Is it nice?
It's gorgeous.
It's beautiful. It's going to be
Yeah.
chilly.
It is. It's actually not that chilly. It's going to be while we're up there. The temperatures are -8 to -13,
Oh, that's
So-
perfectly balmy.
and it's with 5 hours of daylight, decreasing as the 6 days go on. we actually come home 3 days before the shortest day of the year,
There you go.
Okay.
so it we'll be pretty close to there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be keen to hear all about it
Yeah.
when you get back.
I'm hoping I'll see northern lights.
I hope so too. That would be spectacular.
Yeah.
It's on my bucket list.
Oh, I've seen them up there. They can be really spectacular.
Really?
Yeah.
All multicolored and
Yeah.
beautiful. Oh, can't imagine. It'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us this morning. We really appreciate having you here. And we look forward to seeing you again in the near future.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Jason, take it away. We're going to be playing a song for you right now, the Huron Carol. And we've just talked about it. So this is Michael Burgess, one of the finest tenors in Canada, and we lost him a little while ago, but he'll be always remembered for his role in Les Mis and this next song.
Was in the moon of winter time, when all the birds had fled, that mighty Gitchy Manitou sent angel choirs instead. Before their light the stars grew dim, and wandering hunters heard the hymn. Jesus Atonia, Jesus Atonia, Jesus Atonia. O sons of Manitou. The holy child of earth and heaven is born this day for you. Come kneel before the radiant boy.